The Justice Minister, Alex Davies-Jones, from the government now. Very good morning to you, Alex.
Good morning.
We've just been talking about the horrific events in Bondi Beach in Australia, that terror attack that's left 15 dead, 16 including the gunman. What's your reaction to that horrific story?
Well, it is horrific, and all of my thoughts and condolences are with the victims, with the Jewish community in Australia, and with the Jewish community here in the United Kingdom, who will be feeling this acutely at the moment. It is important that everyone feels safe wherever they are practicing their freedom of religion, and that is why the Prime Minister has ensured that the Community Security Trust, who are the organisation that protects the Jewish community here at home, have the support they need to ensure that all Hanukkah events that are taking place can do so safely. This afternoon, I'll be heading to Manchester to stand with the community there, who are still reeling 2 months on from the horrific terror attack at the Manchester Heaton Park synagogue. It's important that the Jewish community knows that we are standing with them and we support them at this difficult time.
Alex, you're very, very strong on today is people feeling safe in general. And you're talking about funding victims of domestic abuse to access support and rebuild their lives, which is something which is often forgotten but very, very important.
Absolutely, Eamon. You know, sadly, far too often domestic abuse is seen as something that happens behind closed doors and it is other people's business. But we know that with Christmas coming, home isn't a safe place for everybody, and that is why the government is investing an extra £19 million on top of the £480 million going into refuge for domestic abuse victims over the next 3 years to ensure that victims who are fleeing their homes, looking for that safety, have the support they need to help recover and rebuild their lives. Violence against women and girls is a national emergency in this country, and it is time we treated it as such. This government is committed to halving the levels of violence against women and girls over the course of a decade, and this extra funding is just one part of that. We're announcing our strategy to deal with this later this week, and prevention will be at the core of that, but funding and support for victims has to be integral.
This video is brought to you by ExpressVPN. Protect yourself this Christmas with one of the best VPNs out there. Cybercriminals are out to get your bank account information while you do your Christmas shopping online. But you can protect your privacy, money, and identity now with ExpressVPN for as little as 8 pence a day. Click the link now to claim up to 75% off.
Free sector play a big part in helping and supporting, and they will really welcome what you are trying to do there. And I've done work in the past with the Salvation Army, who really do a wonderful job on this front. The voluntary sector, it must be very important to you.
Oh, it is. The voluntary sector, frontline services are a lifeline to so many victims and survivors. You mentioned the Salvation Army and Women's Aid, who do such brilliant work. You know, 1 in 10 people who are made homeless in this country are made homeless because of domestic abuse. That is an aggravating factor in forcing them out of their homes. That is why this funding that we're announcing is so vital. That is why the support that we need to be giving them is so crucial. Because in order to tackle violence against women and girls, support is essential, but we also need to prevent this from happening in the first place. And that is also really, really important, and that will be at the heart of our strategy we'll be publishing later this week.
Can I bring you back to the attack on Bondi Beach and you're talking today about wanting British Jews to feel safe. Well, in fact, we've been speaking to a number of British Jews this morning who admit they don't feel safe in this country. They're angry this morning. They're angry because they feel as though they've been warning about attacks like this for years, since October the 7th. And they say anti-Semitism in this country has gone unchecked. What is the government doing to ensure the safety of British Jews?
Well, can I say I feel that anger and I feel that pain of our Jewish community. It is horrific, the current rising levels of anti-Semitism here in the United Kingdom and abroad. And this has been a growing concern since the October the 7th attack of Hamas on Israel. But this has also been an issue going back millennia. You know, anti-Semitism and anti-Jewish hatred is the world's oldest hatred, and it is on all of us to do more to tackle this. The government is introducing new legislation to prevent protests around places of religious worship, to ensure that anyone accessing their freedoms is able to do so safely. We are cracking down on, the police have new powers in order to crack down on anyone chanting and calling for the murder of Jews in our streets, because that is wholly unacceptable as well. You know, the right to protest is an important one in our country, and it is one I will defend to my hilt. But I will also ensure that people are safe, and there has to be a balance struck here. And those crossing the line we will not hesitate to make sure that they feel the full force of the law.
OK, and Alex, just before we let you go this morning, about 10 days ago, we had an update from the Justice Secretary, David Lammy, who said that 12 prisoners had been accidentally released in the 3 weeks prior. He admitted at that point that 2 of those prisoners were still at large. Do you have an update on those 12 prisoners that were accidentally released, and especially on those 2 that were still at large?
So you heard directly from the Deputy Prime Minister on the 2nd of December, who gave an update on the current situation, which shows just a sad indictment of our criminal justice system that we inherited from the previous government. You know, we're getting on with the work of repairing the damage that was done to our prisons, to our probation service, to ensure that all prisoners who should be remaining in prison are kept there and are locked up and are kept safe. There is ongoing police operations, which I can't comment on at the moment, but I want to reassure the viewers and anyone listening that we are taking this extremely seriously. We've put in place new measures to ensure that we keep the public safe.
But are those 2 prisoners still at large?
I cannot comment for police operational procedures. We won't be giving a running commentary on what's happening at the moment. The Deputy Prime Minister has issued a statement, and we will issue more as soon as we have it. But it's important to know that we are getting to grips with the situation, and we are taking action where we need to.
Alex, good talking to you this morning, and good luck to you with that project for the victims of domestic abuse. Thanks for explaining it to us, and we look forward to your further announcements throughout the week. We'll leave it there. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Eamon.
Jane Prinsley from the Jewish Chronicle, who we were talking to earlier, and we had to interrupt to speak to the minister there. Were you reassured in any way with what she was saying about protecting Jewish people in the UK?
Yeah, I mean, the government have devoted a lot of funding to the CST and to security outside Jewish synagogues and schools. So the CST is the Community Security Trust. They do great work.
How is that funded, that CST?
So that's funded through the government, and that money goes towards security, but it's not quite enough to cover all security everywhere.
As we saw in Manchester, there was coverage there, but just not enough.
And a lot of the CST are volunteers. So these are just members of our communities who put on stab-proof vests and stand outside synagogues. Yesterday at my synagogue, there was a celebration for families to come together, and parents were very concerned about security there because of what had happened at Bondi Beach. So the community just had to spend that money, and that will be money that they'll cover, because you just have to pay the cost when it comes to security. But you can wander into any church without having to go past someone in a stab-proof vest. How have we got to a point where we have to have this security? And we saw at Heaton Park, it's a non-negotiable. And sometimes those are the people who are putting their lives at the biggest risk.
Well, Jane, thank you so much for talking to us today.
Thank you for coming in.
To you and your community, we wish you well, and we hope you begin to feel safer than you do at the moment. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you. Jane